right, episode 17, Lane One Talk Show. Mark, how we doing?
We doing good, Phil. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. We've kind of slowed down our upload tempo, but bringing quality versus quantity, I think.
Yeah, I mean, both of us had a lot of things come up. We had a few vacations come up. We had a few conflicting weekends come up to where either I was out of town or you were out of town. You spent like a whole decent amount of time in New York. I don't know if we mentioned that in the last one, but
yeah,
like, and then you started school again. You started teaching again. And then training picked back up for the both of us pretty dramatically. So us trying to find a weekend.
Yeah.
Or shoot, what are we on, a Thursday night right now at 9 p.m.?
Yeah.
That's pretty dang hard to find. So for us, we're squeaking this out, man.
We're squeaking this out. And, I'm actually excited to discuss the topic of cross country, a little spoiler alert, because it's something I'm very passionate about. And I've as much as I've learned so much about the pro running, the elite level, the Olympics, like the preview, the trials, all that, in 3 or 4 episodes, tons of content about the elite level. And I learned so much, but I'm also excited to get some content out about, our origin stories and our philosophies and things like that. Cause we've both been running for a long time, and I think there's a lot to share there.
Yeah, there's something special about cross country. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I feel no matter what level of a runner you are or how long you've been in the sport, there's always that nerdy cross country attached to you. The dweeby cross country kid. And when you take it back, to the get-go, at the beginning, that is what we kind of started off as. You always start off as a nerdy cross country kid, and then you kind of blossom into the person you become. I'm sure people want to argue that I'm probably still that nerdy cross country kid, maybe just a little bit, but at the same time, that's how we all started. That's most of our origin stories once it comes to this stuff. That is what we love to do. It is the one aspect of our sport that is largely team-based, to where you're racing for something greater than yourself. And that is something that does get missed a lot when you do graduate from college. It's those opportunities to be a part of the team, something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
Go out and hurt for other people on the course. So definitely excited to be talking about this.
Yes. No, I am too. But first, some updates. How's the training going? Where are we? Are we kind of mid-base? What's going on?
Training's going great, man. I'm on my first block of real training. So I took 2 weeks off, and then I took 3 transitional weeks to where I was kind of gradually building. So I had a week of 40, or a week of 30, then a week of 60, and then a week of 50. I ended up catching a cold on my 3rd week, so wound up taking a couple days off there. But that was supposed to be 70 miles, but wound up with 50 or 58, something like that. And then after that, I started feeling really good. I've been taking care of my body a lot, so I've kind of put myself in this situation to where I'm telling myself I'm going all in as much as possible in terms of recovery, making sure to be meticulous with a lot of my execution and meticulous with my day-to-day. Stretching is a priority. Doing all the things that I used to do when I was super healthy, and also being a little bit more mindful about standing when I'm at work. So standing desk 9 to 5 issues. So standing up, getting up, stretching in the morning, rolling out, doing all those little things. So 9:15 on the clock rolls around, and I can either just lay on the couch and watch TV, or I can start rolling out. So I've had a real good run over the last 2.5 weeks of healthy running. I've had 4 consecutive workouts without hamstring pain for the first time in 2 years.
Oh, nice.
And I've had proximal hamstring issues that I just thought I was going to deal with for the rest of my life. And for those that don't know, the proximal hamstring is that part of your hamstring at the top where your butt connects to your hamstring. So that area where the crease is, and at the top of your leg. So I've had pain there literally every single workout for the last 2 years.
Oh man.
And my last 4 workouts, I haven't had it at all. So knock on wood, I'm hoping that this is a huge turning point to where I can run without pain, just because in a lot of those longer races, like 5K, 10K, I'd feel that pain, and it starts to manifest during those races, and you kind of have to just block it out in the back of your mind, or you got to take an ibuprofen so you don't feel it. So for me, I've had a week at 96 miles, Then I had a week at 99.22, which pissed off a lot of people because everyone was like, go get that last mile. But too stubborn did not get that last mile. So stayed at 99.22, shut it down there. And then this week I'm on pace for about 100. And then I will take a down week next week. I'm going to be heading out to Minneapolis to go meet all of my coworkers for the first time.
Nice.
So I work remote, fully remote, and I've only met some of my coworkers like once.
Okay.
So yeah,
That'll be
next
fun.
week I'll meet all of them. So I have a planned down week to where I'll probably hit like around 80, 70, 75 to 80, which is still
Yeah.
a pretty significant amount, but it's more of one of those things, Phil, you know a lot about this, where you squeeze in what you can.
You get in what you can, man.
Get in what you can, because
Get in. If you gotta do 5 miles on a treadmill, that's good.
yeah, bro, they got me painting rocks out there. They got me doing a s'mores day. They have like movie night. We're going to a Twins game. So like they have a full calendar.
Is this like a retreat?
Yeah, it's like a team bonding thing. So we have a full calendar between like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. like every day.
Dang.
So
it's like camp.
It literally, the name of it is Camp CM.
Oh man.
Our
CM,
company Collective Measures.
Okay.
So it's called Camp CM. And we are literally going to be spending one whole week getting to know each other pretty dang well.
That's awesome.
So for me, running might take a back seat. I'm going to try to get it done as much as possible. I'm not a big morning runner. I feel like crap when I wake up in the morning. Like I'm always groggy. So for me, I'm going to have to probably tough it out and try to get in miles in the morning. Doubling is probably not realistic. So we'll see what I can do. Yeah, but that's where I'm at. I've been working out for maybe about 2 weeks. They've been going great. I've been feeling good. I've been hitting my paces. I've been doing everything in trainers, actually. So that's been an interesting get. Hoka Mach 5, or what are they on, Mach 6?
6. Yeah.
That shoe is money, bro.
Yeah, it's good. It's great. I'm a big one shoe guy, and that's my shoe right now.
Yeah, I made the mistake of ordering one on our last gear drop, and I burned through them. I did my workout in them yesterday, and they had zero pop to them, and they're on Sealess France territory, to where they're like the sole's eaten up. And I'm like, damn it. Okay, these are like officially done, so I need to get a new pair. But that's where I'm at. What about you, man? How are things going for you?
Good. I finally did my first workout of the fall in a long time last Saturday. Out at Cuesta. I did 10 times minute on, minute off, and the ons were like, I started out super chill. Like I started out with Dougie and Silas when they were doing their tempo, and I did I just stayed with them for a minute and just let them go. And so it was like 5:30 pace, 5:25, and some of the downhill sections I was getting closer to sub 5, and it felt good. I felt smooth. It felt a little taxing. I do feel a little out of shape, but I'm kind of in this weird, like maybe you've experienced this, like this pupil state of transition when you're going from kind of like just regular runs to training, and kind of like every run kind of feels crappy.
No, I get that, where every run feels super hard no matter what pace you run it at.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you mentioned starting up school and everything. And I just like, sometimes some of my evening runs, I'm like running like 6 or 7:30 pace down the bike path flat. Right. And my heart rate's like, closing in on 145, 150. And I'm like, this is not comfortable. But I've experienced this before, right? Like you have to go through it, this period of like 2, 3, 4 weeks of just like garbage to where you actually feel like you're being productive again. And I've been incorporating a lot of cross training. I've shared on previous episodes, but just going to the gym, and I gotta find the balance. Like what I'm learning now in this phase of life, having a family and working full time, both parents working full time, and now my son getting into activities. He's doing flag football now, and
Project Christian McCaffrey, baby.
Yeah,
let's
go.
Actually, maybe not running back. Let's have him do like Project. I don't know, Adam Thielen. He's had some longevity.
Yeah, something like that.
He's 35, over 1,000 yards. Let's go, Calvin.
Yeah. So like now you're trying to start, there's family activities, there's other members of the household that have things going on in addition to my things. and just fitting all of it together, and just like I'm just like, my body's just not ready to go in the morning at 5 a.m. like it used to be. No matter how strong like my will is, it's just like, I need to walk around for a little bit and get the metabolism going. So I haven't tried cross training in the morning. I might try that at some point, but I literally just am short on time. I'm like, I could go to the gym and do a full lift, 45-minute lift, and then do 55 minutes on the elliptical. I could do that. I could do 2 hours at the gym, but I just don't have 2 hours a day to do it. Right.
Yeah, I get that.
So I'm like learning in real time how to balance all of those things, and and still stay healthy, and still stay happy, and still make everything, still be a contributing member to the household. So that is like kind of the next phase of where I am, is like just relearning how to balance all that stuff, right? Because I've been doing this for a while, but then like you introduce something into your life, and then that continues to evolve, with being a father of a school-aged child. But yeah, no, we're making progress. I'm planning on being out there this Saturday. I want to up the ante a little bit. But yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, dude, one of my marathoners, John, is in a similar like position to what you're talking about, with just not having a whole lot of time. And the dude literally wakes up at like 3:30 a.m. to go on his runs. He's racing a Long Beach Marathon in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude I see his Strava runs 4 a.m. And I'm like, dude, how the hell do you do that?
Yeah.
And his response is like, dude, I just don't have any other time. He has a daughter that's about like 1.5 years old. So like same thing. It's like, well, you got to be a contributing member, and his wife's pregnant too. So it's like, you have to be a contributing member of the household, man. Like there's a lot more going on that are bigger than your runs. So like whenever you can compartmentalize and whenever you can get those runs in, is what you have to do. And you just have to make that sacrifice.
Yeah. So I kind of arranged like that. My example of that is like today, like I was teaching all the way up until 3:30.
Yeah.
And I had to head up to Slow to pick Calvin up from school, and then straight from school to football practice, like put the cleats on in the park, snack in the car ride from school to the field, practice for 45 minutes. Then we went home for a little bit, and then he had a chalk festival at his school. And it was like an evening sort of parent night sort of thing. And it was really cool. And then we went out, we got to get dinner because, he did great. He did amazing at both the chalk thing and football practice. So we went to Public Market and, like all that stuff. Right. Like, and now it's already 9:00 and I'm doing a podcast. So, so I just I had to take a DNR today. I just had to take a DNR today, and I'm not going to stress out about it. Right. Like all those things were very important parts of my life today. And I'm just going to take a DNR, and I'm going to get back on it tomorrow. And I've given, you have to give yourself permission for those things, right? Like, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it would have been like, up at 4 a.m. We're out the door got the headlamp on. We got the Lincoln Park blasting, and, we get it done. But, you have to adjust and shift. So,
that's real, man. I mean, in my position, that's like, I do ensure I remind myself that it's a luxury, that like I have the capability to make those decisions for myself, to where I'm not responsible for anybody else's life or anybody else's well-being, so I can prioritize my runs. And that is something I'm incredibly grateful for, because I do see a lot of my friends, or a lot of the people I coach, or a lot of my training partners that do have kids, and you see what goes into that, and you see like eventually there is something bigger than yourself, in the sense of where you're going to have to be contributing and be a contributing member to a team, which is your family, more so than just being selfish. And stuff like that. So those DNRs start coming through. And then when it comes down to it, and you look at the output that you really have, end of day, me and you had this, while we're on the topic of cross country, like we're looking through when you've maybe only haven't been the number one guy for the Aggies 3 times since like 2009 or like 2008.
Something like that at Club Nats.
Yeah, at Club Nats, when we're looking at it, which speaks a lot to it, because like your training has looked very different. And we've had some very good guys on the team. Like you overlapped with Sergio when he was American champion in the marathon.
Yeah.
You overlapped with Scott when he was like
Yeah.
club cross champion. One of the years you overlapped with him when
yeah, he was when he was third in he got third at USA at the USA half, and then he ran like 62 something, maybe 61 high, and made the and went to Qatar, and then made like the world marathon team, right?
The world half team.
Team, yeah.
In like Doha, and like this one, Scott was still Psycho Scott and stuff like that. And there's some really good guys on our team. So that's not a shot at the Aggies being like, you're number one for the Aggies each time, because like we had some good teams. We had some real good runners. And looking at a day near 16-year span, you've only haven't been the number one 3 times out of like that 16-year window. One of the times because he had meniscus surgery. The other 2 times I just happened to have or the other time I had the race of my life. And then the other one, you just happen to pull your hamstring. If not, you probably would have gotten me because you passed me before you pulled it.
Yeah. There's been a couple. It's I'd have to go back and look. And honestly, like when I remember doing the research last year about when we were talking about Club Nats, the records get a little fuzzy prior to 2011, dude. It's not the page cannot be found, like 404 error, like but yeah, no, cross country is my passion, and we're gonna dive into that here in just a second. But I know that the pro season is over and the Olympics is over, and we're not going to spend a ton of time, but I did want to just discuss briefly Jakob's world record in back last month, almost a month ago now, of 7:17 in the 3K. Just nuts, dude.
Dude, I contemplated retiring after seeing that, because I was like, dude, I can't even run that one. I can't even run half of that race. I can't run with him for 1,200 meters of that race.
No.
And that kind of made me like really put it in perspective. Like, shit, dude, should I just hang this up?
Yeah,
like, I'm pretty trash, bro.
Like what? So what's the pace on that? It's like 58.
58s, yeah.
58s.
And it's 2 3:37s or something like that, or like 2 3:38s.
2 3:38s. Most Americans can't do that once.
No, like he can run a full 1,500 and then still make the trials on his second 1,500.
0 minutes recovery, 0 seconds recovery. I just like what is it, man? Because he also had a great summer himself, just doing a variety of running a bunch of 327, 328s, 329s. Like what is he doing that can put him in that kind of fitness?
I mean, shoot, Jakob is. So there's a lot of guys that when I look at on paper and I look at what they've been doing, there are the testament of consistency over long periods of time. When you look at someone like Jakob, who has maybe had that one Achilles injury and very little injuries since he was 12 years old. So we're looking at an 12 years of uninterrupted training. And it's something I think we talked about in the past, where the goal is to string as many healthy days as possible together. And I think it's a testament of how frequent he's able to do like threshold workouts and then capitalize on them with his like special workouts later in the season. And when you can do that for 12 straight years and make gradual improvements, he had a real good quote about the 1,500 world record, where they asked him, like, do you think it's yours? And he said, well, the idea is that I'm not necessarily aiming for the world record, but if I keep improving by tenths of a second, eventually I'll get it, right?
Yeah.
So for him, I feel like it's a testament of just like 10 years of uninterrupted training. And another guy that's a big testament of that too is like Eliud Kipchoge.
Right.
Kipchoge had literally like 20 years of or maybe not 20 years, but like he had 20 years of pretty damn good training. Right. And maybe suffered injuries in towards the end of his career on the track. But between the years of like 2011 and 2023, like the guy was untouchable.
Right.
He was never hurt. He never had any issues. He was damn near inhuman in the sense that like he didn't lose races and he didn't miss training. So you look at that as like 10 years of uninterrupted 140-mile weeks. And Jakob is the same way, where you look at 10 years of uninterrupted minimum 90 miles a week up to 120 miles a week. And he's just executing a program that seems clearly to work for him.
Yeah. Yeah. The Jakob seems to favor consistency over like golden mushroom workouts.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he probably does those and they probably are golden mushroom workouts to us, but to what, you know, when you're in 717 shape, they might not be.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all relative, but there
Right.
is like backlashes that come with that, because the guys who do golden mushroom workouts, they're getting race efforts in practice. So when it comes down to the races, they're a little more sharper. And you look at guys like her that are pushing the well at practice, guys like Whiteman who are hands on the knees, crouching down, ready to vomit after workouts.
Yeah.
Like guys like Cole Hawker that train crazy as hell on the day-to-day.
Right.
Like those guys are likely able to peak better on a given day than Jakob. Like Jakob is probably in better shape for 364 days of the year. But come that one day, and those guys have coaches that know how to time it for a day, like they're better runners on that day, or they just have a better chance of being a better runner that day versus Jakob, who's just better consistently. And that's why we see him get all of these world records that are a little bit more of like consolation prizes.
Right. Diamond League titles.
Yeah, like, and it's hard to complain from outside the club, like I always say, because like I would kill to run any single one of those times. But end of day, do you think he would trade all of his 2K world record, his 3K world record, all that stuff for that Olympic gold? You bet your ass that guy would.
Yeah, he would. He would for sure, as most of us would. But yeah, I just wanted to touch briefly on that because that was like pretty big, you know, running news over the summer, and just kind of round out the pro season as it finished up here. But yeah, I want to dive into cross country, specifically kind of our origin story. And I know we touched a little bit on this in our first episode, but I kind of wanted to dive deep specifically into cross country, right? So starting with our youth days, going in through high school and college, because both you and I had the opportunity to run in youth and in high school and in college. Different tracks, right? Different pathways, but ultimately we ended up on the same team, same training group. So, you know, another example of how different routes can take you to the same location.
Yeah, that's something I would always joke with Will Geiken about, because you know, if he went to Harvard,
yeah,
I went to D2, and Harvard is much more expensive than Cal Poly Pomona. To put it lightly, it's much more expensive. So I always used to joke, because we're roommates and we lived in the same house, worked at the same company, and like ran the same times. So for me, I always joked, I was like, I'm going to use that money to buy an iced out chain and some grills.
Yeah.
I was like, and we both would have ended up in the garden house. The difference is I would have had I'd have had like some diamond grills and an iced out chain.
Oh man. Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, he always got mad. He's like, that's not the point. The point is I got a Harvard degree. I'm like, I don't know, man. Years later, I think I might take the chain. But like years later, I don't know. The grills would be pretty dang cool. Imagine showing up to PAs and you just have like this iced out grill while I'm showing up with my entourage of like 20 other Aggies. I mean, you look corny as hell, but it'd definitely be a sight to see, right?
Yeah. That is an interesting perspective, though, is that you were working the same job, running on the same team, running the same times.
Yeah. So, and that just goes back to what we're talking about, that people have different paths, because you went the JO's route and I ran like the janky Hacienda La Puente Unified School District League cross country, to where like California, I don't even know how to explain it because I don't even know the ins and outs. My mom probably can tell you better, but like, I went through the school district for running. You went through JO's, which is the more like, I guess, in relation to like maybe club teams for soccer.
It was a club team. Yeah. It was that's the probably the most relatable, comparable example is a club team. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's club teams, or it's like the kids that played Pop Warner for football versus Junior All-American. Like there's different types of leagues. I would have been what's playing for the school, and you were like playing for the academy team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk about your progression a little bit through youth, because I don't know too much about JO.
Yeah, dude, I had such a great experience in youth cross country. I did it. I did it for two years in 7th and 8th grade. because I'd done youth track. I'd done youth track since age 5 or 6 in Oxnard, Ventura County. But I didn't start doing track until, I'm sorry, I didn't start doing cross country until I was in 7th grade. So 11 turning 12. So 11 and 12-year-old was my division that I started. It was called the midget boys back then, but so I lived in Oxnard. Yeah, midget boys. I know it was.
Nah, it's all good, bro. When I played football, we were junior midget when I was in 8th grade.
Yeah, I think they just now call it whatever year you're born, right? Yeah. So so yeah, I was 11 and 12-year-old, and we had to my local area didn't have youth cross country, so we drove over to Thousand Oaks and Westlake for the club team, which from Oxnard, where we lived, actually Port Hueneme, which is deep in like a deeper part of Oxnard. It's not really close to any main freeways. So sometimes, I mean, with traffic after school, man, sometimes it'd be 45 minutes, an hour away. Some of our practices were like close to Calabasas, dude. And yeah, like shout out to my parents, my dad, for driving me out there on, Tuesday evenings. But yeah, so it was kind of that club vibe, right? And so I went and competed out there. And that was a Valley Striders. No, that was the Westlake United cross country team. And they had like a normal regular season. And then at the end of the season, we would form the Valley Striders. And that would be kind of the all-star team that would travel and do the Junior Olympic stuff. And we would have like Southern California, and then we'd have regionals, and then we would have JOs. We had qualifying rounds. And so I got some experience at a young age having to like make the all-star team, right? And then B, like advance through the rounds to the championship meet. And also my team was really good too. And Jameson Mora was on the same youth team, but in my first year, when I was in 7th grade and he was in 8th grade, we were in different divisions. So he was in the youth, the like 13, 14, and I was in 11, 12s. But yeah, random little story. The side quest there is that Jameson Moore and I were on the same youth cross country like club team. So yeah, we would compete there. And in was it 1997? We qualified for the Junior Olympics. It was in Portland, Oregon. And we actually had a really good team, and we ended up winning as a team. And I actually also took first place as individually as well. And like that season, I learned so much about competing and traveling and scoring and like positioning and all that stuff. Right. And I'm still very grateful for that experience. Right. Because I understand that like not everybody like gets to do that. Like it's definitely there was some talent and there was some interest there, but like I'm very grateful for that opportunity, right? Like to have, the opportunity to travel and to score. And I would say JOs is pretty legit through about 8th grade, right? After 8th grade, it's not like people really don't do Junior Olympics in high school because high school cross country at the state level is so competitive.
At the national level, even with like NXN and Foot Locker.
Yeah, NXN and Foot Locker now are super competitive. So like Junior Olympics, like past 8th grade isn't super competitive. There's not a ton of people doing it. So but to 8th grade, it is. So I think obviously we were training and we did learning about consistency and things like that, but also like what I was saying about having to travel and having to work as a team. And it was when we would form these all-star teams, it's now formed with people that were rivals during the regular season, right?
Yeah.
So you would have people you competed against from September through Halloween, right? They were in the regular season, but come November, hey, we're all on the same team here. And, that was another little bit of a lesson of like, learning to become, teammates after trying to beat each other all season.
Yeah. Was there like any like notable people on that team? No shade at anybody if you say no, but like were there some dogs that like competed later in college? Like you already mentioned someone like Jameson.
Jameson Mora. Yeah, Jameson Mora was on that team.
Yeah.
There was a guy named Charlie Serrano who was another guy who was a little bit older than me, who went to Chico and was on the team with Scott Baus.
Yeah, I recognize the name.
Yeah, and then also this kid named Tim Hurst. He's from Royal High School. You know, him and I went back and forth in high school, and he actually went to UCI. So, you know, I raced him again in college, and he was a steeplechaser. So I didn't race him too much, but he was like my main rival and then also teammate. But he was really good. We had some really good like battles over the years in youth cross country. I'm trying to think. Remember the name Michael Haddon?
Mm-mm.
He was a really good runner back in the day, and he went to UCLA. He's from I think Orange County.
On the Equalizers.
Remember the Equalizers, dude? Oh, I rate there. Oh, there was what was his name? There was a kid from the Equalizers who was really good. I can't remember his name at the top of my head.
Yeah, the Equalizers were like the team in SoCal.
Yeah, Tucson, Tuscan.
Yeah, I think it's shit. What city is it?
Tustin.
Tustin, yeah. Tustin, yeah. Tustin Equalizers.
Yeah.
Like if you were good in Orange County, like chances are you were on the Equalizers as a kid.
Yeah. I just like I have such fond memories because like that team was so cool. Like all the teammates were cool and they were welcoming. Like, you know, again, I was a kid from Oxnard going all the way, and you know, Conejo Valley, Conejo region's, you know, it's got some, you know, high property values.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a totally cool experience. Everybody was really nice, and I like think about those times so much. Like, you know, the trips we would go on, the, you know, hotels and like pools, and like we would go to Vegas. We had some meets in Vegas, dude. Like, and go to the arcade, and like, yeah, it was awesome. But I think a lot of I was, you know, talking about being fortunate, like a lot of those like sort of like ninth grade growing pains I was able to experience in seventh grade. So like in terms of like forgetting your shoes and like, you know, I'm not saying I was a perfect ninth grader, but I just like, you know, I would have regular Saturday like cross country meets when I was, you know,
like you were already part of the game by the time you got to high school.
Yeah. But what about your youth days in the Hacienda La Puente Unified School District?
Oh man, those were the days, just because there's no better feeling than a meet day, because that meant I get to get out of school early. So
you probably had like Wednesday afternoon meets, huh?
Yeah, I think it was like Thursday afternoon. So we would get out of school and we used to race by the year you were born. So everything was like 1995, 1996. And that's where things really got into perspective, because like you see some of your classmates there, and like for me, I'm 1995. So you would see some of your classmates and they're in the 94 race, and you're like, wait, what? Like you're a whole year older than me? It's like, yeah, and stuff you didn't know. You would see kids in like in a grade below you in the same race as you, and you're like, oh shoot, like you're the same year as me, and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. But we would go and it would just be hundreds of kids sitting on the blacktop waiting for their race to get called out. Like, bro, we would walk the course as our warm-up, maybe do a couple strides here and there. But like my mom was super involved too, so she came to like almost all my races, and she was an assistant coach for a couple of my years. But yeah, youth cross country, it was a lot of fun, because I finished 12th place a lot, like pretty consistently. That was like the place that I remember finishing the most. But like we had the whole qualifying for districts, and we would go over to Baldwin Park. But we had like a whole league to where we would go to each school in the league and like do a race. And I'm assuming it was the same 12 kids. And what ended up being pretty cool is when I got to middle school, like cross country and soccer were the only sports allowed. So you probably did both if you were an athlete at the school. And I did both. So when I got to middle school, and I got to middle school cross country, it was pretty cool, because some of my friends that I had met in middle school, and when I started doing middle school cross country, they were people that I competed with in the league, and it'd be like, oh, what did you finish at like Los Robles? oh, what did you finish at Quiz? What
Oh,
did you finish
nice.
at like Grazide? And like we would just mention what races we went to, and we would just ask each other what we finished. And some of those people, then you get to high school and you're like, wait, I raced you in like the second grade. Like
Yeah.
I remember you at like the Baldwin Park district meet.
And were those races typically at the elementary or middle school, or are they at parks, or both?
Yeah, no, they were at the school, like in their backfields.
Oh, just like around their baseball diamond and stuff.
Yeah, like a lot of the elementary schools in SoCal had like pretty big backfields.
Oh yeah, the recess yard and stuff.
Yeah, stuff like
Okay.
that. So for us, we had pretty like our courses were like 1,500 meters. It was like a 1,500 every race. And back then, there were people that were pretty damn good because like in the 5th grade, I ran I remember my 1,500 time was, I think it was like 6:12 for like the 1,500, and my mile best was like 6:52 or
That's
like
solid.
6:53 in the 5th grade, which I'll take. I mean, I was running in like Vans,
Yeah.
and like in the heat at like maybe 3 p.m., 4 p.m.
Yeah.
So looking back at it, it was a ton of fun. We had a whole state meet too. I
Oh
qualified
wow.
when I qualified when I was in like the 4th grade, but I don't think I didn't go because it was in Bakersfield, and my mom was like, "Bro, we're not driving to Bakersfield." So didn't wind up going to that, but yeah, it was pretty cool. I was like, my best finish was again 12th in the district, and finished 12th overall. And I remember that I had a couple teammates. I had a couple teammates go 1-2, so I wasn't even the best at my school. But yeah, a couple of my teammates went 1-2. I went 12. But
Nice. Now,
yeah, that was,
were you typically where were you typically number 1, 3? Where were you?
on my team, I was usually 3. I had
Okay.
my friend Adon Salcido, who would win every single race. And he was a football player, so it would piss me off because he was he was I was the runner. I was always the number 1. And then 5th grade, he decided to start running, and I was always better than him, but he joined and was better than me right out the gate, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So I was like, shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All
I
right,
mean,
I'm not number 1.
yeah, at that age, with the races being like shorter like that, like 1,500 meters, like the best, it's usually the best athletes, right,
Yeah.
are the number 1 runners. It's not really until you having longer races where like training over the summer really takes into consideration. But
Yeah.
that's
And I
that.
mean, I wasn't training either. Like
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
I didn't have practice. Like I had practice once a week. So it
Yeah,
was off of like the widths of what I was able to do.
yeah.
And yeah, he joined. He got better than me. And then me and one of my other friends, his nickname was Chevy, but his name is Eusebio. He and I would go back and forth a lot for who the number 1 was. And then that day, I mean, I got 12. He got 2nd. So like that day, he beat me. But yeah, I was generally number 3 in the school. And then I was usually pretty like 1, 2, or 3, regardless of grade.
You're right.
So like even probably once I hit like the 3rd grade, I was like the fastest kid in school.
Do you remember like at that age? Do you remember like the value and the importance of being a scorer?
Dude,
Like, do you remember?
I'm still chasing that high, man.
So like that's a thing, right? Like that's what makes cross country different than PE class, right? Is that
Yeah.
there's that sense of purpose, and I'm scoring. I want to be, I want to beat as many people to have a lower score so my team can do better, right? Do you remember having that in 5th grade?
To a degree, it was a pride thing in the sense of like, 1, I wanted to be the fastest, but also 2, like it was cool seeing like Quiz won the meet, or like our team, because I went to Quiz Elementary, so it's cool seeing like, yeah, Quiz 1995 is like the most dominant team because we would go like 138 or like
Okay.
136.
Oh, was it a 3? Was it a 3-runner team back then?
No, we had 5, but
Oh, okay.
but that's just what we would score.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would just score super high, and then we had a couple of my other friends were finishing in like the 20s.
Okay.
So we would go and we dominate. So that was pretty cool. And then I started running in middle school. I didn't quite do like the whole JOs experience like you did. I ran in 6th grade, and I ran varsity in 6th grade, but then I decided I was going to pursue the NFL, and then I quit running until high school. And as you guys know, I didn't make the NFL. So
Yeah, that's that's great. I mean, so you had a robust cross country experience. You had some championship races, and
Yeah.
it was organized, and you had rivals, and you had on your team and not on your team.
Yeah.
um and yeah, so going from eighth grade, and kind of having maybe some people were like, maybe not just you and me, but maybe like people were really good in eighth grade. They were like the top in their PE class, and they have a little swagger going into high school, and there's a little bit of a humbling process there, right? Where you think you were good, but then you're racing against 17-year-olds, and it all makes sense then. So how was your transition to high school? What was the first sort of memories you have of joining the team?
So I didn't join cross country until my junior year of high school. So I had a big lull between the 6th grade and 10th grade.
Oh, because you did football.
I didn't play football in high school. I was a troublemaker in high school for my first 2 years. I didn't care about
You did track though.
I did track my sophomore year.
Okay, so zero sports. It's ninth grade.
Zero sports, bro. I was I was a bad kid, bro. I was a bad kid heading nowhere real fast. And that was kind of like what we were talking about on that opening episode. Like, all my friends were athletes. All my friends played football. All my friends were on the baseball team. All my friends did sports, and they were all pretty dang good, because those all the people, like, when you do sports as a kid, those end up being the people that do sports forever, right?
Right.
And so a lot of my best friends were like varsity football as sophomores. A lot of my friends were varsity baseball as sophomores. And here was I, like, I don't know, skating, like trying to get girls, like doing all the dumb stuff, doing bad in school. I was going nowhere real fast. And it kind of hit me when people, like, I had older friends that started, like, getting offers to college. I had older friends that were starting to talk about what they're doing after high school. And for me, like, I hadn't thought that far at all. And so it was just wanting to be good at something. Never had the opportunity to be great at something. So when I started actually running pretty decently, I was like, okay, maybe I do have this opportunity to, like, do something with it. And like I'm saying, to this day, I'm still chasing that high. I don't have the opportunity to be that great at many things in life. Not many people have that opportunity to be great at something to where they can definitively say they're one of the best to do it, or one of the best in that field. Like, as much as I put myself down in terms of my performances, like, I've still been top 25 in the US at the half marathon. I've still been top 100 in the US at, like, the 5K, which to a lot of elite runners, if they hear it, like, isn't a big deal. But in the grand scheme of things, like, kind of is. Like, it could be pretty exciting to be top 100 in the US at anything. And at the end of the day, like, when you look at your career, or you look at the way you're going to live the rest of your life, like, you don't have very many tangible things where you can say you're definitively one of the best to do it. So, like, for me, I wanted to try to do that. So that's kind of why I started taking running real seriously my junior year. And my goal for my junior year was to break 16 in the 3 mile. And my coach, that was his goal for me too, was like, he's like, yeah, I think that's a great goal. And my first race of the season, I ran 16:01, and we're like, holy crap. Yeah, so I ran 16:01 my junior year, and my goal for that season was to break 16, and that was the goal that my coach had for me. And so when that kind of rolled around, opening up the season in 16:01, he was like, holy crap, we got to throw everything away and kind of start over. So my goals for myself at that point, because I thought breaking 16 would mean, like, your GOAT status. At the time in my high school, if you broke 16, you were pretty damn good. And looking at it in hindsight, like, a lot of people break 16, but at that moment, it was a rare thing. We had like 3 guys ever on our team to break 16. So it was pretty exciting for me to be able to almost do it on my first race. So that's kind of when I realized I can probably be pretty good at this thing. And then
what course? I'm sorry to interrupt, but what course was it that you broke 16?
I broke 16 for the first time at Rosemead Invitational.
Oh, okay. That's in like Rosemead High School, Rosemead, somewhere around there?
Yeah, so it actually was at the high school, at Rosemead High School, and they had a course because they had a park right next door to their high school. And that was probably one of the dopest high school meets I've been to, just because of the environment. So it was a direct competitor with like Woodbridge, because it was for like all the people that didn't go to Woodbridge, and for us it was a lot easier. It was a lot easier for us to do Woodbridge versus I mean, it was a lot easier for us to do Rosemead versus go to Woodbridge.
Yeah.
Just because
So
Woodbridge,
was Woodbridge like the OG Woodbridge course,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And I never did that one. We
Yeah,
went to Rosemead instead.
because it's at like Norco now. I went a few years ago. It's like at this like pancake flat giant sports complex.
Yeah, no, that course in Norco is dope.
It's dope. It's great.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so fast. But yeah, I'm talking back then, Woodbridge, when they had it at Estancia High School.
Yeah. I
And
remember that we didn't go down there. I mean, because Orange County was a big haul for us, but I remember like reading about it.
yeah, and yeah, basically we did Rosemead instead of that, and super fast course, and it was really dope because you would do two loops in the backfield, and then it'd spit you out to finish the first mile on the track. So you would just have like all of the parents and all of the teammates and everyone just screaming their heads off while you're coming through on the track, and it was a super dope feeling. So
And that's when it turned the corner for you that you were like, I could maybe do something with this.
yeah, I ran like 15:58, which isn't like incredible, but at the time I was like off of the training I've been doing, and I'm always very optimistic on how big of improvements I can make. And from there, that's when I was like, yeah, I think I can take this further.
Yeah, that's it's usually like one or two sort of like, races, or maybe like a season, or that you're like, yes, this is for me. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What was high school when? What was that moment for you when you realized I can really be good at this thing, or like, damn, I'm a bad motherfucker at this game?
you know I I I was, again, very fortunate to have success early on.
Bro, let's just call it like it is. You're a blue chip, dog. Let's call it
um
like it is. I know we want to be humble and be hungry, but bro, you were a blue chip, man. You have some pretty damn good cross country accolades. You have some good track accolades. So,
I,
what was
I
that moment? What did you do when you were like, I'm him, or I could be him?
it, it's tough to say a single moment, because it was like, there's it's all relative, right? Like when you get, you know when in my junior year, I was top 10 at the state meet, right?
Yeah,
And you know that I didn't win, right? I didn't win, like I didn't win that year. So what was the turning point? Honestly, like ninth grade year, Seaside Invitational, early September. We're in Ventura, and it was this pancake flat bike path course around the Ventura County Fairgrounds, right? When you're driving south, it's up there on the right hand side of the freeway, right?
yeah,
Like Seaside exit,
yeah,
Seaside Invitational. And I remember vividly lining up for this race, and it was my first high school race, and gun goes off. And Friday afternoon, beautiful, right on the ocean, right? Late summer, early fall, evening race Friday. Probably went to a football game that evening. Um, and we got Jameson Morris team. He's a year ahead of me, but his team was he had a teammate named Ryan Morgan. He was my grade in that race, and we get out and we run, and I end up winning that race. And I don't remember what my time was. It was a 3 mile course, and I remember like it kind of like hit me. It was like like day one of my high school career, I can win a decently sized. There's 200 kids in the races. I could win this. Like I won that. And I won that race 4 years in a row, because it's ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th, right?
yeah,
So you just raced in your age division. Um, and I don't know if it was the most competitive race, but it was our local opener. It was one of those races where you race early in the season, and it's kind of discouraging because you never run that fast again, because it's so flat and fast. But that was kind of one of the like precursors to being like, yeah, you could do something with this. Um, you could make something out of this. And then and then this is true. in track and field, I also was able to win the 3,200 at the county meet too. But, I would say like that Seaside Invitational, like the fact that I was able to step in right away and be our number one guy and contribute to my team and have that maybe self-imposed responsibility, really like set things on a positive trajectory for my running career, I think. So that was a big one. And I just, you iterate, right? Like that first year was establishing and trying to win league meets and win league titles. And that was a big deal for me. Like I've never been someone who was like, I'm not racing league, I'm resting, I'm holding out. I was always a guy. I was always like Wednesday evening league meets, I'm there, I'm showing up. County meet, and local invites. I was never like one that like my coaches would save until we're not going to, release him until Mount Sac, right? I was always there. I like local meets. Like we had a meet at Lake Casitas, and that was one of my favorite courses in Ojai. And so I always enjoyed the process. I always enjoyed the training, the racing, the traveling. I liked little meets. I liked dual meets and tri meets. We had dual meets and tri meets in high school, and I loved them. I was just like, let's go to this small little park and race against Channel Islands and Wainimi High School. And that I've always loved that part. I still do, right? I when I'm healthy and I can do it, I'll go to a PA race with 34 dudes, like
where you're racing like a 4 mile in the trails.
Yeah, exactly. It's you and
there's some solace in those meets when you were just racing people, because it's like you're sizing yourself up against your peers.
Yeah.
Against the people like directly your age. It's not, there's no asterisks where it's like, well, I'm a freshman and they're a senior, or like I'm a junior and they're a senior. Next year, I'm going to be the best. It's like, no, you're just racing your peers, and you have the opportunity to like go head to head with the people that you're going to be competing with that are your age.
Yeah. 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 And that was a fun part about high school, right? Is those races where you're in your grade. And, I think being in Southern California, having to like compete in like CIF and Mount Sac and all those races, you had to be so good.
Yeah.
You just had to show up, and like the level of competition was at such a high level. And it was, you really, just to advance to the next round, you really had to have your A game. And I really think that prepared us well for the next level. But I think one of the things I don't really ever talk about is that like I won state my senior year, right? In 2002, I ran 1501 at Woodward Park in Division 2, which was a pretty strong division back then.
1501?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so quick.
Yeah, and I'm talking like 1501 in waffle racers, like Bill Bowerman pressing those bad boys in his garage, like back in the day.
Hey man, German Fernandez ran 14:24 in those, and that record still hasn't been touched.
Yeah,
by kids in super shoes.
Yeah, yep. And I think that's one of the best performances we have on the books, to be honest with you.
It's actually kind of crazy because I don't think anybody has ever run faster than that until like Reed Buchanan this year, who's a sub 28 guy. I think Reed Buchanan has like the FKT on that course.
Oh.
And he's like 33 years old.
Yeah.
Like only one grown man ever has been able to beat it. And they have that race every year. Like we've had guys like Diego Estrada, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but like, we've had like guys like Diego Estrada, CJ Albertson and some random Ethiopian guy like last year won it in like 14:27.
Yeah. Cause they have that, that race every year in August, right?
Yeah. Miguel Reyes.
Yeah.
Like the young twins going after it in Vaporflies. You have like Colin Stallman in Vaporflies going after it. And you have all these people going after this time that this dude ran in like 08, and it's still untouchable.
Yeah, it's untouchable. It's untouchable. Yeah, so one of the things I don't really talk about is like I won the state meet that year. I don't remember if it was the fastest time that day. I think it might have been, but I don't remember because California has 5 divisions and I was in division 2.
Yeah.
So I don't remember who was in the other races, but like the next week was regionals, right? With Foot Locker regionals. We didn't have Nike Team Nationals back then.
Yeah.
And I was like, we did have the internet. We had like dial up AOL, and like Rich Gonzalez had the first version of Prep Cal Track, right? That was the one in the late 90s, early 2000s. And there was message boards there, and he would do rankings. He did rankings back then. And I was like top 9 went back at the time, and I was like trending at number 5 and 6 for the Western region. And like, you know, I think, looking back and we do that race, and actually it went pretty bad. I ended up having a really bad day, and I got out in the front. I was like with Galen Rupp and Mohamed Trafay and Mark Matusak and all the name drops of the era.
Jeez, yeah.
And I just had a bad day. I faded in the last 1,000 meters to like 18th place or something, and I ended up having like a fever that evening, like, and had a stomach flu. And so if you looking at my looking at my high school career is like, that was kind of like the thing that eluded me, right? I was never a Foot Locker guy, right? Like that's Selinski's, the Rupps, the Fishers, they all had Foot Locker. They all had that Foot Locker, and I really wanted that. I really wanted to be on that national level at the national high school level, because that Foot Locker back in those days was top tier.
Yeah.
It was the legit national meet because there wasn't any other options, and we didn't have like those secret meets in Louisiana or whatever that they do now. We just had literally, it was Foot Locker, and yeah, so that is one thing I haven't really shared too much, is that like I tanked at Foot Locker regionals my senior year when I was like, I don't think I was expecting to go. You still got to show up and, like you said, be humble and hungry. But I just like, I did not have a good day that day, and I still think about it every now and then. It's like, oh, what could have been it? What if would I have gone to Cal Poly if I was a Foot Locker guy? I don't know, man, because that changes your trajectory, right? That changes your draft value.
Yeah, that's always the thing, right? Like you look back at it in hindsight, but at the same time, like it does kind of shape the person you are, and it does kind of shape the competitor you are. Because like for me personally, what keeps me going is the fact that I've never been at that top tier level. Like similar to you, I've always been kind of, you were a much better high school runner than I was, but similar to you, I was always pretty good, but I never quite made it there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the level I was competing at. So like in high school, it was actually funny. I got 16th at CIF Southern sections, but I got 15th at state. Same division. So it's very similar in that sense to where like in high school, I was 15th in state, but you're still not quite there. You're not all state just yet.
Yeah.
And in track, I was 5th in CIF Southern section, but I missed masters by 1 spot.
Oh man.
And same thing for college. Like I was D2 All-American, but like I wasn't quite there with the top guys yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like I'm at that point now in post-collegiate where I'm like, I'm running pretty decent times, but I'm just not quite there yet. Like I feel like I'm a step away from being a step or two away from being like up there. And that's the thing that if you look back at those and it's like, well, if I did have a little bit more success at that time, maybe I would have gone complacent.
Yeah. And maybe that what we're talking about here is, I think maybe on the flip side is that we were never quite satisfied, right? And that's quality that we possess, that we're still doing this to this day, right? I'm gonna be 39 this year and I'm still doing this. And like I think that's what that mindset, that like, man, I'm not quite there. Like, you weren't top 15, but I was in a Foot Locker. Like we're not top, my thing in college was my college track career wasn't too great. It wasn't like I never made
you made it to nationals.
I made it to nationals 1 year, but I never made a final. I never factored in. I mean, like, when I won the California State meet in the 1600, and you kind of like, okay, you're gonna maybe be an NCAA finalist, and like that never happened. And so like, you're talking about these accolades that elude you, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe that like I'm saying, like, trying to maybe talk myself up a little bit, is that like you have that, like, you never satisfied value. And I think that does come through in other aspects of your life too, in terms of your job, or your, how you go about, your personal life, is that like you're always trying to improve, no matter what tier you're at. So I think that there is like some positive takeaways from that, but like, yeah, definitely like a solid conversation about like the one that got away, right?
Yeah, and I was having that conversation similar to what you were saying with my buddy Ryan. I met with him for dinner the other day, and he and I were talking about how being meticulous in certain areas of your life bleed over into other areas of
Yeah.
your life. So his quote was, "How you do one thing is how you do everything." So for him personally, he was like, "When I'm doing the dishes, bro, I go hard as hell doing those dishes. He's like, when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm being as thorough as possible. It's like all those little things, because the more thorough you are with those
Yeah.
little things, the more thorough you're going to be in the big things." He's like, and it bleeds over in every area of your life. He's like, so um, once you do have that specific, like being specific in what you're doing,
Yeah.
I botched the word big time, but when you're being more specific with what you're doing and stuff like that, and being more intentional, like it does end up becoming a trait, and you end up
Right.
developing that because of those past experiences where you kind of just weren't happy with where you finished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And yeah, exactly. And I like, people will say like, you know, I will seek feedback. I'm not like what, my job, my career.
yeah,
And, people will say like, it's, you know, the way you seek feedback is like impressive, right? That you
yeah,
want feedback. And I don't see it as like, I don't take it personally. Like if you're telling me to do improve myself, especially if I'm a teacher and I don't improve my students outcomes, it's like, yeah, I want to learn how to do that. I'm not going to
yeah.
take it personally. Like, that is definitely a result of my, you know career as a runner, and like listening to all my coaches and people over the years.
And it's that curiosity, right? Like, how do I continue? And me and you are similar in that sense, where you're always trying to learn how to be better and
Yeah.
just curious about like do different ways work. Like for me, I'm always curious about going down rabbit holes, and I always feel like such a know-it-all when I do talk about this stuff with running, because like for example, yesterday, Silas flat out was telling me when we were cooling down, like I've been looking a lot into Martin bicarb, and I was like, and to quote my good buddy Dougie, "Oh, I know, like I know about that."
Oh, I
Uh,
know.
yeah, like I was like, yeah, I've gone down the rabbit hole with the Martin bicarb. I have it all, stuff like that. And for us, that's just us being curious people
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And piquing curiosity is how you wind up trying to get yourself out of those positions, because, like they say, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. And so, even going back to what you're talking about, seeking feedback at like work, whenever I bring that up to my manager, I was like, I see it in a competitive way, but also like a teammate kind of way, because I see what the supervisors are doing. That's the role above me. I'm a manager. The role above me is supervisors. And I'm like, I'm trying to see what Brett's doing that has him there. I'm trying to see what Marcus is doing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to see what all the supervisors are doing, because that's the role I want to be in. And it's not me being competitive, being like, I wish them that they start doing bad. But it's
No.
also like, bro, I'm trying to study your
Uh,
game. Like, you are in the position I want to be in. Like,
you're trying to elevate the room, right?
yeah,
And I don't know if you this like if you've ever been in a meeting when like somebody has some absolute bars, and the way
yeah,
they deliver it, and the way the people sort of starts nodding, and
yeah,
like I just like I'm a little bit competitive in that way, because like sometimes I feel like I can kind of stumble over my words, but if somebody's like, oh dude, that's he said some she said something really good right there, like
yeah.
that's I see that and I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah, writing emails, man.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
dude.
about emails, but yeah, no, definitely. There's certain people, or even like I have another coworker, Marcus, and the guy speaks like he's freaking Shakespeare, bro. But it's so admirable because like they have parts of their game where me, I speak a little bit slang sometimes, or like I speak very unprofessionally sometimes, or I come off as I'm not speaking at a higher level. So when I am in those meetings with like higher level people, like I don't have that kind of skill set to be able to talk up to that level. So like seeing other people being able to talk like that, I'm like, shit, how did you And I'll like flat out send a message. How did you learn to get your vocabulary like that? And the same thing with running. Like when I see people run well, so like there's a strength coach that is the strength coach for BYU. And he's the guy who like does the strength for like Connor Mance. He does the strength for like Clayton Young, Kenneth Rooks, all those guys that are with the Ed Eyestone groups and stuff like that. And he's one of the trending strength coaches right now because it's like, well, what are you doing for these guys? They were all banged up heading into the marathon and they got 8th, 9th. Kenneth Rooks got 3rd or 2nd. Like, and I flat out just shot him a DM. Hey, what did the last 2 or 3 weeks of Connor and Clayton's Olympic weightlifting look like? And he responded. Same thing with Centro. He posted something on Instagram and I just sent him a message. Hey, I forget what it was about. And I'm just like, hey, what do you do for speed year round? And I was like, do you do speed year round? He's like, if it works for you, don't cut it out. And stuff like that. And I just be sending people messages because it's like, worst case scenario, they don't respond. Best case scenario, you get a well thought out answer. Like Centro gave me his answer, speed year round. Then you got the BYU strength coach gave me what they did in the last 3 weeks and answered my questions. And so now when people come to me and like ask, should you cut out weights ever? No, I asked probably the best strength coach in the US right now, like for distance running.
Right.
Hey, did they lift the week up? Yes, but it was all isometric stuff and less load. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. What did the last 2 to 3 weeks look like? This is what it looked like. And I have those DMs, screenshot those DMs, and I save those for when I build out my program to when we lift as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the sort of like, the other takeaways from running, right?
Yeah.
That we have garnered in our everyday life, and I think that feedback, that coachability, I don't always feel like I need to be the smartest person in the room. I feel like I have something to gain and something to add to the situation usually.
Yeah.
But yes, a great discussion on our origin stories there. I feel like we had some deep cuts that maybe have never been heard before. I don't think I've ever said anything about the Foot Locker thing on our runs. I feel like there were some new gems to share. Anything else? I think that's a good episode.
Yeah, I think we could wrap it up there.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we wanted to maybe start diving into college, but I think transitioning from high school to college and then college itself will be a good episode.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are curious about that transition, and with you and I being D1, D2, I think it's a great perspective to share, especially too, given the fact that teammates that we had that maybe were transfers and things like that we could share as well. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Mark. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the Lane One Talk Show. We'll see you next time.
Peace.